friends, let's read our next two chapters of Merlin Mission number 8, Blizzard of the Blue Moon by Mary Pope Osborne. Jack and Annie found the unicorn, but so did two people who didn't seem up to any good. Chapter 7, Dianathus. The unicorn had a broad milk-white chest and graceful neck. A tuft of hair curled under his chin. A long spiraled horn rose from the middle of his forehead. He stood very still and very tall. His whole body seemed to be glowing. Baylor and Grinda just stared at him. They both looked frightened, but Annie stepped forward. "Hi, Dianathus," she whispered. She reached out and gently touched the unicorn's white chest. "Feel, Jack, feel his heart pounding." "Move away," ordered Grinda. The girl stepped between Jack and Annie. "He is ours and he is coming with us." "He's not yours," said Annie. "Who are you anyway?" said Jack. "Where did you come from?" Grinda glared at Jack. "We come from the same magic world he comes from," she said. "He belongs with us, not you. Baylor!" The boy shoved Annie aside and tried to loop the black rope around the unicorn's neck, but Dianathus reared up and wheeled around, forcing Baylor and Grinda out of his way. Dianathus leapt across the tapestry room toward the garden. Jack and Annie followed him through the open doorway into the snowy cloister. Baylor and Grinda charged after them. They pushed past Jack and Annie to Dianathus. Baylor grabbed the unicorn's blue collar. "You are coming with us, like it or not." "Don't pull on him," yelled Annie. Dianathus tried to back up. "Let go," screamed Annie. "He doesn't want to go with you." "He has no choice," said Grinda. "As soon as that rope goes around his neck, all three of us will be instantly transported back to the castle of the Dark Wizard." "No," Jack shouted. He charged at Baylor and tried to grab the rope from his hand. Baylor let go of the unicorn's collar and shoved Jack into the snow. Then he turned back to the unicorn and began to swing the magic rope like a lasso. Dianathus reared up again and kicked his legs. Breath from his nostrils billowed into the icy air. "A rhyme," Jack yelled Annie, "a rhyme." Kneeling in the snow, Jack yanked the book from his briefcase. He frantically turned the pages, looking for a rhyme they hadn't used. "Call a cloud from the sky," he shouted to Annie. "Anything," she called. "Try it." Jack read the rhyme aloud. "Down from high, out of the sky, no fiend, ro lie." A thick white fog instantly filled the cloister. The fog was so dense that Jack couldn't even see his own hand. "Baylor, where are you?" shrieked Grinda. "Here," the boy yelled. Someone grabbed Jack. He struggled to break free. "Let me go," he shouted. "It's me," whispered Annie. "Come on." Jack stood up, clinging to Annie. They stumbled together through the garden. Feeling their way along the walkway, they came to the door that led to the main hall. "Dianathus here," Annie whispered. Jack heard the soft crunch of the unicorn hooves in the frozen snow. "Where did he go?" Baylor shouted. "Find him," yelled Grinda. Jack reached out and felt the unicorn's soft mane. Annie pushed open the door. Then she, Dianathus, and Jack slipped inside the main hall. Jack closed the door before Baylor and Grinda could escape the garden. There wasn't a wisp of fog in the main hall. The museum lady was still behind her desk. She stared at Jack, Annie, and the glowing unicorn that had just come in from the garden. Her mouth opened and then closed. Dianathus stepped lightly over the wooden floor. Jack and Annie followed him. The museum lady never blinked. As Dianathus walked gracefully past her desk, she reached out and touched him. She gasped and quickly drew back her hand. "Thanks for keeping the museum open today," said Annie, "and thank Mr. Rockefeller for his gifts." The museum lady opened and closed her mouth again, still unable to speak. Jack opened the door that led to the street. Jack and Annie followed Dianathus out of the museum and down the stone steps. The blizzard had gotten much worse. Snow was coming from harder than ever. The wind was wailing. The unicorn shook his head and knelt down. "He wants us to get on his back," said Annie. "Quick, climb on behind me." Annie climbed onto the unicorn's back. Jack climbed on behind her. Dianathus stood up to his full height. Grinda and Baylor burst out of the door of the museum. "Stop!" screamed Grinda. Dianathus looked back at them. Then he leapt nimbly over a snowdrift and headed into the darkening storm. Chapter 8, Back to Life. Jack clung to Annie. Dianathus cleared the driveway of the cloisters and began to run with ease down the street. His long strides were so light and graceful Jack could hardly feel the movement. As the unicorn ran, he held his head high. His long spiraled horn pierced the raging storm, seeming to calm the winds and snow. Jack realized he could feel his fingers and toes again. His whole body began to feel warm. Dianathus headed down a deserted parkway along the waterfront past an empty bridge. The bridge's towers and cables formed a silver arc over a wide river. White caps swept across the water's surface. As the unicorn trotted past the river, the water became still. Dianathus left the riverside and headed down a city street. The wind whistled between tall buildings, blowing the snow into great drifts. But the unicorn's horn turned the howling wind into a soft breeze. The wild blowing snow became floating star-shaped flakes, like the snowflakes on Christmas cards. As the unicorn trotted down the street, snowbound taxis and streetcars started moving again. Lights came on in cafes and jazz clubs. Jack heard happy music coming from inside. With a calm, steady trot, the unicorn pranced on through the city. As he moved past old mansions, broken-down tenements, and shabby hotels, people peeked out of doorways and windows to see why the storms of the sound had died away. When they caught sight of Dianathus with his horn shining in the windless air, they broke into joyful smiles. Church bells started ringing through the white silence. Finally, Dianathus came to a stone wall bordering Central Park. He jumped over the wall and landed knee-deep in a heap of snow. The unicorn leapt effortlessly out of the drift and centered over a field and down a slope. Slowly, the clouds parted and light from the setting sun poured down. "Hot corn!" a peddler shouted, plowing his pushcart through the snow. "Roasted chestnuts!" shouted another. The good smells of the corn and nuts filled the crisp golden air of the park. The unicorn trotted past Belvedere Castle. Bill Perkins stood outside, staring up at the clear blue sky. "Hey, Mr. Perkins, the monster storm's not coming," shouted Annie. The weatherman saw Jack and Annie on the back of the white unicorn. His jaw dropped. Then he smiled and waved. Jack and Annie rode on. When they passed the statue of the winged angel, Jack thought he saw her move her great wings. "Did you see that?" he cried. "Yes," said Annie. When they passed the statue of Balto, Jack heard the sled dog bark. When they rode past the merry-go-round, Jack heard a chorus of neighs and whinnies, accompanied by lively carousel music. Dianathus pranced down a shimmering pathway. He leapt over a stone wall and cantered over another field. The unicorn's horn glistened, and the snowy field reflected gold and copper light. Not until the unicorn came to the tree that held the treehouse did he stop. Annie hugged the unicorn's long, graceful neck. Thank you, she whispered, and kissed him. "Yeah, wow," breathed Jack. Jack looked at Jack over her shoulder. "What now?" she asked. "I guess we climb off," said Jack. "But then what?" Annie asked sadly. "Where does he go?" "That's a good question," said Jack. "He comes with us, of course," someone said. Jack and Annie gasped. Baylor and Grinda slunk out from behind the tree. Baylor carried the black rope. Jack was stunned. How did you get here so fast?" he asked. "We took the A train," said Baylor. "It's actually a bit faster than riding a unicorn." The boy laughed meanly. "Shut up, Baylor," said Grinda. Then she turned to Jack and Annie. "I'm glad you had a happy little ride, but you can say goodbye to Dianathus now. We will take him from here." "No, you won't," said Annie. "Stay away from us," said Jack. "Come on, Dianathus, let's go," said Annie. Before Dianathus could move, Grinda rushed forward and grabbed his collar with both hands. The unicorn snorted and shook his head. Grinda clung fiercely to the collar. "Get the rope over his head, Baylor," she yelled. "Now!" Baylor looped the black rope into a noose again. The unicorn twisted and turned his head. Jack kicked at Baylor. "Stop!" he yelled. "Get away from us!" Jack felt stupid just yelling and kicking, but he didn't know what else to do. As Baylor and Grinda struggled to get the noose over the unicorn's head, Annie pointed at them. In a loud voice, she shouted, "Fowl of air, appear now here! Aka, 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 mere!" The black rope fell to the snow. Baylor and Grinda started to spin around. They spun like two spinning toys. As they spun, they grew smaller and smaller. Jack saw a blur of colors, gray and brown, green and white, a dash of orange, a dash of yellow. The spinning slowly came to a stop. The two scary teenagers were gone. In their place were two small mallard ducks. And he was the last rhyme. Now what will happen to Dianathus? We'll have to keep reading next time. Bye, friends.